Hello, welcome to my first IGTV video. I decided to bring it here on Instagram because there is a construction crew coming tonight, so I did not want to have to battle the noise. So we have this webinar now on IGTV. In this video, I'm going to be talking about indecision, what that looks like, how to take back your control, and things that you can do, practical tips for you to start making more empowered decisions, no matter how big or how small. So when you're indecisive, it is because your brain has convinced you of one of two things. One, that there is a right choice and there is a wrong choice, or two, that you make the wrong decisions. Have you ever heard those stories where like someone comes across like a mountain lion or something in the wild, or just like walking on the trail, and then the story goes on to say that they like punched the lion in the face and then ran away? Like, that does not make any sense. Like, if you were not in a place of fear and you were reading that article, you'd be like, what is wrong with that person? Why did they just punch that animal in the face? But the reason why people do that is because when you are in the fear part of your brain, your only priority, your brain's job, is to get you to safety, is to do anything it can do to bring you back to comfort and to keep you safe. So that fight or flight mode is activated. It's either you're going to punch the lion in the face or you're going to run the opposite direction. So when you are in this place of indecision, that is where you're making your decision from. You're making it from a place of fear. And punching a lion in the face might not be the best idea. So making decisions from fear are not going to be good decisions. So maybe you're like me, where you'll go into Target or Home Goods or some wonderful store that you like to shop at, and you'll fill up your cart, you'll contemplate over this pillow or that pillow, and by the end of your trip, you have like 3, 4, 5 maybe items in your cart. And when you get close to the checkout, you're like, okay, now it's time for me to decide which of these pillows that I want. I've pushed them around the whole store to make them think that I'm going to take them home, but now I actually have to take one of them home. And usually what ends up happening when you're someone who's indecisive is you will randomly pick a pillow and regret it all the way home, or you'll just abandon your cart or throw the pillow somewhere where it doesn't belong and get out of the store as fast as possible. But what is happening here is that is your brain getting you back to comfort, getting you to safety. Because when you are in that place of figuring out what you do or don't want, your instinct reaction when you're indecisive is to invite in fear, to invite in regret, and to invite in that mistrust in yourself. So your brain is literally doing its job. It's keeping you safe. It's saying, this is not a safe place for us in the decision-making process, so let's just run away. If that's what you do at Target or like at Target.com, it's okay. And I know this is like a very like first world problem, very small decision making here. Like getting a throw pillow is not gonna like determine your life, but I'm putting it into these simple terms because what's happening in those little simple small moments shows up for you in other places of your life when you do need to make really big decisions. So what you need to do is change this reflex. Your reflex right now is you giving permission to your brain to come up with ideas of more reasons to be afraid, more reasons to mistrust. What you need to do is take a step back and practice making a decision so that you can show your brain that making a decision is also a safe option, is also an exit route, is also going to bring you comfort instead of just running in the opposite direction or punching a mountain lion in the face. Okay, so let's get into some solutions about how to take back control when you are in that place of indecision. So when your brain's going and you're having all this mind drama and it's spinning and you're not trusting, what you need to do here is not bombard yourself with more questions, with all of these little details. Well, what if this and what if that? And that is not helping you. Instead, you don't need to ask more questions. you need to be asking yourself better questions. Questions that are going to clarify, not questions that are going to confuse, questions that are going to clarify what it is that you want and why you aren't trusting here. The first question that you can ask yourself, and I'll put it right here so that you can write it down, is this decision really important to me? Or am I just afraid of making the wrong decision? Because if the decision is really important to you, you should identify that. If it is, then you do need the time to think, to stop, to process, so that you can make a good choice. But if this is a second guessing game and you're thinking that there is a right and a wrong, when there maybe really isn't, and they're both kind of neutral, you need to ask yourself, is this going to be an important decision for me? Or am I really just avoiding this and not making a decision because I don't want to make the wrong one? And that brings me to my second question, which is, what are you really afraid of? And I know that I say that and some of you are like, nope, don't want to know, don't even want to think about that question. But it's so important that you ask it. Because if you don't know what's really going on, if you think that you're afraid of making a decision, you're just fooling yourself. You're actually afraid of what you think the consequence of that decision will be. So you need to get the root of it. You need to find that fear. You need to see what's going on. Are you worried about being judged? Are you worried about how this decision will define you? If it will make you happy? If it will serve your family, your friends, the people that you're working with? What kind of disappointments or excitements it's going to bring for people? All of those things have a place to play. And here's the reason why you need to answer this question. And if you don't take anything away from this whole video, except for this one thing, that will be a huge win. If you do not know the source, you will never find the right resource. I'm going to say that again in terms of what we're talking about. If you don't find the source of your fear, you will never find the resource to combat that fear. You'll just be blindly fighting. Okay, the last question that you should ask yourself, and there's so many more questions you can do. That's one of the benefits of working with a coach, is you get to dive into those roots so that we can come up with the better questions for you in a more personalized way. But here is a good last final one for this video. And that question is, who is here right now? And I'm saying this because it's really important that you label your emotions that you're going through. When you label the emotion, you take it out of yourself and you label it as a temporary experience. So it's not that you are indecisive or that you are anxious, it's that you're experiencing anxiety, you're experiencing indecision. So it just helps you separate that temporary experience and doesn't make you confuse and label yourself as that thing. So lastly, let's talk about some ways that you can make empowered decisions no matter how big or small. Just a few tips and things that you can try for yourself. Number one is put it to practice. Practice making decisions. That's it. If you aren't making decisions, then you need to practice. You need to tell your brain that it is a safe option for you to make a decision. So start really small. Decide what you're gonna have for breakfast. Become aware that that was just a decision, what you just did. Tell your brain, I just made that decision all on my own. Then decide what route you're gonna drive to the grocery store. Another decision. Decide what music you're gonna listen to. There's another one. These are all ways for you to practice making small choices, but build evidence for yourself that you can make choices. You've done it before. You did it this morning. The practicing is really important because when you are indecisive, your habit that you're trying to break is hesitation. So when you practice catching yourself hesitating, taking a step back and making a decision to move forward, that's how you switch that up. That's how you get out of that habit of always hesitating and always second guessing, and instead beginning to trust that you can make a really great decision all the time. My second thing for you is to make a pro list. So I did not say pros and cons, and I'll get to that in a second, but a pro list, you have your decision that you need to make. On one side, you list out all of the reasons why this decision is the best decision. On the other side, you write all of the reasons why this decision is the best decision. It's a completely different energy. You then get to see the benefit of both. Because when you're someone who has anxiety or you're really indecisive all the time, doing the pro cons list, it doesn't work, because when you're in that place, you're already like so overwhelmed with all of the cons. Like the last thing you need to do is write out all of the cons of both of these things. Like you've already been there, you already know those things. You don't really have to think very hard about it. But you don't think very hard about the pros or the positives because you're so stuck in the negatives. So the pro list is a great way for someone who has anxieties or indecision or that kind of tendency of behavior to flip it and start looking at what are the pros of this, what are the pros of that, and it'll bring you so much more clarity, and it will really help you understand what it is that you want, because that's something I hear a lot with people who are indecisive, that they just say, I don't know what I want. And my response to that is, well, have you looked at what both of them could give to you or what both of those could do for you? And they usually say, no, I just think about what they won't do for me or the bad things that they'll do. So get into the good. Put a pro and pro list. Which one stands out to you? Okay, and the last thing, I'm going to do a little preface before I tell you what it is. But this one is for those of you who are avoiders. Being in avoidance is terrible. It's the worst. And what most of us don't really think about is what we lose when we avoid. We think that when we don't make decisions or that we avoid making a decision, that nobody loses because you haven't picked anything, no one really knows the difference, and you don't have to disappoint anybody. But here's the crazy thing. When you are in avoidance because you don't want to make a decision, you have already made a decision. You decided that you are not going to decide. You tell your brain that the safest thing for it to do is nothing. Nothing. You're so busy coming up with all of the negative ways and ruminating on those negative consequences that we don't ever stop to think about, what are the consequences of me doing nothing? What is the cost of inaction? What am I losing by doing nothing? If you really thought about that, things would become very clear very quickly. If you realized what you're missing out on, what you're losing, who's losing, it's not just you. Sometimes there's many people that are losing from you not making a decision. It can be such a huge motivator. What is the cost of doing nothing? So a good action with this question is just to journal about it. Write this out in a journal. Weigh the cost. What is the cost of doing nothing? What is the cost of inaction? And then see what comes up for you. So I want to leave you and empower you with this last thought to mull over. Imagine if you really, truly stepped into the power of choice making. Like if you could turn off all of the things that are making you spin out in confusion, if you could turn all of that off and really step into the power of this statement, I have the power of making a choice. Like really think about that statement for a second. I have the power of making a choice. That is a privilege. That is an honor. And when you think that that is the thing that is your problem, you're not going to get anywhere closer to a solution. This is how you tell your brain, hey, I'm in control here. Yielding back your power is really hard. It doesn't happen overnight. But when you decide to step into that place of growth and try and get comfortable with that growth, it's going to be becoming way more easier to you, and this is going to become part of you. So that is what I have for you on this episode. I hope that it was helpful. Please let me know what you think. Tell me how these action steps work out for you. Maybe share like what better questions that you've come up with for yourself and your own. And if you want to go even deeper, send me a message. Let's get on a free call and we can dive into the specificity of your indecision and the anxieties that you're going through, and come up with some solutions for you. Well, the construction crew just pulled up outside of my house. So that's it for me. Let me know in the comments below how this helped you. And like I said, my door is open. If you want to talk about this more on a personal level, send me a message. Love to jump on a call with you and talk it through. Hope you have a great rest of your week.